Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the middle of May 2016. I don't have a lot for you today, but I will tell you what I have is a bit interesting. Because scientists from Florida Atlantic University's Oceanographic Institute have discovered the bones of a 13,000 to 14,000 year old extinct species of bison. And it was found at a place called Old Vero Man Site in Vero Beach, Florida. Now, this material was found from the Pleistocene period, when the last ice age was thought to have occurred. And they said that the finding is very significant because, along with the fact that bones like this have never been found on land, as part of a calculated archaeological effort, they've all been found underwater or in sinkholes or in streams. So this is a kind of an evidence that these bones from this extinct bison from approximately the time of Atlantis was an Atlantean species. And so they're pretty much proving, since Florida was underwater at that time and they've only found the bones underwater. So, another thing I would like to talk to you about is the fact that there has been an increase in road rage, husbands murdering wives, and transgender bathroom issues. And pretty much that's what's on the news every single day. That's the only stories that you hear about, other than the issues with Trump and Hillary, which are really manufactured anyway. So there's a lot of ELF activation going on, triggering going on, and obviously there are anger issues and violence. So I hope that you're all doing your deprogramming techniques. As far as global warming is concerned, here we are in Michigan in middle of May, and there was frost this morning, which isn't really unusual, but there were also snow showers overnight. And I think the last time I saw that was 2 years ago.
I don't know. I saw them once the 1st of June, but that's been a couple of years ago.
But that could have been during one of your hallucinatory periods, you know, when you thought you saw things and they really weren't there. And the other thing that's really been a little bit irritating to me is that some people, and we talked about this in OMG, it's dealing with people who are not very smart and who should know more than they do know. So, for example, because I'm leaving tomorrow on my trip to Europe, I had to call my credit card companies and tell them that I'm going to certain countries so that they don't block my transactions if I do any. Well, I spoke to this woman at a very major credit card bank, and she asked what countries I was going to. So I told her that I was going to Iceland, Holland, Poland, and Germany. She proceeded then to ask me, isn't Holland part of Switzerland? And I said, yes, Switzerland invaded Holland overnight and is now occupying all of the Dutch territory. And wouldn't you know that when I got my confirmation today on the internet, she completely eliminated Holland.
Because it's owned by Switzerland
because
now
it's part of Switzerland. Yes, so I'm sorry, Holland, but you will all be speaking German, French, and Italian, and Romansh any day now. And actually, that's all I have.
All right, well, I don't have a lot today, believe it or not. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. The first was, just briefly, there was a headline about the GOP civil war deepens.
Oh.
So I thought that was interesting that they put that in the headlines.
Yeah, because I told you there's going to be a civil war this year.
Yes, GOP civil war deepens. And then it says that GOP wrestles with whether to back Trump. That was the issue of that story. Now then you might have also heard about Trump's longtime butler calling for Obama to be shot dead. His Anthony Senecal. Now this was interesting because it said the presidential nominee's former butler of 17 years called for the 44th U.S. president. So before I move further, 17, 1 plus 7 is an 8, 44th U.S. president. That's an 8. on today's news, I didn't even put that on the story, but there was a bus crash. Did you see that?
Oh, in Texas?
Yeah, there were 8 dead and out of 44 people. So I was thinking as I was looking at this story, 17, which is an 8, 44th president, and there were 44. So 8 and 44, I say something's going on with those for trigger numbers. Anyway, Anthony Senecal called for the U.S. president to be shot as an enemy agent, saying instead he still remains in office, doing everything he can to gut the America we all know and love.
Well, that's true.
The so-called elite, he continues, who are nothing but common dog turds from your front lawn, are shaking in their boots because there's a new sheriff coming to town, and the end to their corruption of the American people, is at hand.
Does he mean his boss, Trump?
That's the new sheriff, I guess. I cannot believe that a common murderer is even allowed to run Hillary Clinton, he calls her, and calls Sanders a commie.
He is a commie.
And says that Obama is a Kenyan fraud that should be hung. Now, again, this is all about setting things up for, what this side
Mr.
against that
Senecal.
side. Nothing that goes on the news like this unless there is a reason.
Well, actually, let me comment.
Go ahead.
What Mr. Senecal said is actually true, but I don't agree with how it should be handled.
Well, and there's a reason, because they're trying to get people riled up, like you just talked about, all these anger issues and whatnot. They want you upset, they want you riled, they want to have this side against that side. So anyway, as I said, there's a reason why that's being put out there.
What a nice butler to have.
And did you hear about the Obamas hosting the Nordic leaders?
Yes.
Which I thought also was
And
interesting.
Michelle is bigger than all of them.
Yeah, Michael
She was
Obama.
the biggest Viking of all.
Michael.
Michael.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting. The leaders of Iceland, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Norway all went to the White House for a lavish dinner, which is a show of unity against
Did
Russia.
they eat whale and...
Now listen, this is what they ate, which I thought was just hilarious. Chicken and waffles,
Yeah,
ribs,
that's not Nordic.
and that's right, elderberry custard pie. It's southern.
Yes.
It's very southern. So why are they serving to these Nordic people chicken and waffles,
Because you can't get that in Stockholm, probably.
ribs, and elderberry custard pie?
I've never seen ribs in Reykjavik.
Yeah, I'm just telling
Well,
you.
except they were attached
This
to
is
people. But
this is southern stuff, and so what are they doing? This has to, in my opinion, has to do with the Civil War in the South. Otherwise, why would they serve this kind of
yeah, but
meal?
do you know what Obama said?
What?
Are you going to say that?
Oh, I don't know what he said. You tell me.
He said that all the countries should be like the Nordic countries.
Why?
Because they're so nice and friendly and do whatever he says.
Oh, yeah. Well, according to this, it says that the 5 leaders gathered to talk about economic sanctions against Moscow.
Because Moscow has so much problems with Scandinavia.
Yeah, the crisis in Syria and Iraq, and the flood of immigrants to Europe. And apparently, when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, it alarmed its Nordic and Baltic neighbors. Now, you had talked about Russia and Finland, as I recall, at one time, which upset a few people.
Finland should be worried, not the rest of them.
Because?
Because Russia considers Finland to be a province, not a separate country.
That's right. And you had talked about that on Finnish television one time.
I did, and that's why I've never been back on Finnish television.
That's right. Anyway, so then Obama said that the 6 countries, now he's, first of all, I guess he now is the 6th leader, were united in their concern about Russia's, what he calls, quote, aggressive military presence in the Baltic and Nordic regions. Well, they're right next door to Baltic.
Oh, but to putting American missiles in Poland and Estonia, that's not aggressive.
Apparently not. He says then last month, a Russian jet fighter intercepted a U.S. Air Force reconnaissance plane flying a routine route over the Baltic Sea, which is right next door to Russia.
Right, like I said, what if the Russians had a reconnaissance flight in the Gulf of Mexico?
Exactly.
What would the Americans do?
2 Russian jets buzzed a U.S. guided missile destroyer in the sea. And
I'd just like to get buzzed other ways.
And then it says that NATO is planning its biggest buildup in Eastern Europe since the Cold War to counter what the alliance considers to be a more aggressive Russia. Sweden and Finland are not NATO members, we want to remember. And of course, Obama says we will be maintaining ongoing dialogue and seek cooperation with Russia, but we also want to make sure that we are prepared and strong, and we want to encourage Russia to keep its military activities in full compliance with international obligations.
How many countries does Russia have troops in?
Yeah, a billion.
Just Russia.
Well.
How many does America have? Like everywhere.
Yeah, so that's what I said. It's a show. like you talked about. Everything's being a show right now. And then speaking of the transgender bathroom, the Department of Justice here in the U.S. told North Carolina's governor on Wednesday that a new state law limiting restroom access for transgender people violates the U.S. Civil Rights Act. So then Ben Carson, of course, who was a former presidential candidate, I guess, spoke against U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, get the name,
like that
Lynch, Loretta Lynch compared the North Carolina bathroom law to the Jim Crow laws, which were discriminating against black people, basically.
She reminds me of that singer Loretta Lynn.
Yeah, but they call this one Loretta Lynch.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And she says this is not the first time that we have seen such discriminatory responses to historic moments of progress to our nation. And then Carson said that's what they always say, everything is like Jim Crow, everything is like racism and segregation and slavery. What a bunch of crap. You know they want to do that so they can always gain the sympathy, but thinking people know better. And then Carson, surprisingly or not, went on to accuse the federal government of overreach. He says,
He's right.
Of course he's right. You know, we need to go back to recognizing data and science. You know, we know what men are and we know what women are, and we've known that for thousands of years. You know, if there are some people who are confused about it, we can make some accommodations for them, but it doesn't have to involve everybody. And that's
What if like this should be a bathroom for people who only like vanilla?
Maybe they could do that. I mean, what if they identify with being vanilla?
Or it's like
I'm vanilla today.
It's like I need a bathroom because I have an O blood type, so I need my own special bathroom.
Maybe you just are blood.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, and there were so many ridiculous stories, because I know you like to tell you some of the most ridiculous ones. There was too many to even choose from, so I thought,
I thought you'd do that one.
No, I'm not going to do that one.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Even I think it's horrible.
Yeah, so I'm not doing that one. So anyway, point being is you know, be who you are, not what they're telling you who you are. And I've told you before, if they can't control you, they confuse you. And that's what somebody said to me, and I said they control you and they confuse you. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, find out who you are. And we have so many ways for you to do that. We have a membership on our site, which is very, very reasonable, less than $1 a day, where you have complete access to Stewart and I. We have, of course, my June trip is like 2 days away from closing, so if you're not going with me to the Alps, it's like you're done.
Yeah, screw you.
And I'm not doing this trip again, so if you're not going, you're not going.
Yeah.
And then I have, well, of course, you have some, I'll tell them where you're going, and then I'll tell them about this.
Oh, I already did.
You did? Okay, so you're good. So in September, we have a week-long class, which is going to be amazing because we have new lectures coming out. We have new ancient history secrets revealed about the giants, the ancient nations, Hyperborea, the ancient Israelites. We have the truth
Not what you think.
about the Magdalene lineage, the Christ figure. We're going to talk about the Mother Mary and Joseph, who is quote-unquote the father of Jesus. Jesus and his political connections
He was the baby daddy.
To the Roman Empire, the myth of Mary Magdalene, where that comes from, the frequency that creates her, and the real agenda of Jesus. We are going to have the most current, top alien agendas, how that affects you, and what you can do about that no matter where you live, no matter who you are.
That's right.
And we're going to talk about the normal, the paranormal, the now, the past, and the future. We are going to talk about radionics, and you can get your own box, have it waiting here, and we'll help you use that. I'm going to teach you how to read sticks and stones, because there's a lot of hidden knowledge in there that the indigenous people use, and you can find that out for yourself. We're also going to be talking about new imposed illnesses and how to correct them, physical, mental, and emotional. We will be making one trip to the forest as a group and one trip to the beach as a group.
Any trips to a transgender bathroom?
No. So, if you're transgender, you have to let us know in advance, and we will make personal
Or just wear your astronaut diaper.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things. I had some people say this is true, that's not true, but diapers is in the thing for adults. That's kind of the bottom line. Yeah, that's where you're supposed to laugh. So, you know, there's just, like I said, there was so much literally crap in the news. It was like, I'm not even going to pick from these because there is too much.
Yeah, but I really wanted you to tell that one.
No, that one was disgusting.
I know.
So I'm not telling it. You have to come here and ask me in person. So that's what I have.
Really horrible. That's it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to do that separately.
Oh, okay. So then they're going to have to pay attention another time.
They will.
it's very hard for them to pay attention.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. I won't be on the podcast for a couple of weeks because I'll be away.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell a lot of secrets while he's gone.
And then I
Tune
come
in.
back and Janet will be away and then I'll tell secrets about her.
Yeah, but his won't be true. He doesn't,
We'll see. And I might tell that story that you refused to tell.
Yeah.
Anyway, see you next time, whenever that is.
Bye.
Bye.